Oh, where is that mask?
Speak of the devil, and he shall appear.
What the hell?
These videos are not for children. If you're a children, then piss off.
Hey there, it's me, your least favorite YouTuber, Infuso. And I've controversially critiqued the Dark Knight's Batman, Joker, and Two-Face. And while my opinions didn't exactly make me the most popular Batman YouTuber here on the platform, I think my next one might make up for that a little. Because I believe that we can all agree that the Dark Knight's Bane was kinda dumb. I guess ultimately he makes sense as Batman's big bad because sometimes you gotta fight fire with fire. Sometimes the only way to stop a hero with a goofy voice is a villain with a goofy voice. While there were some that liked the Dark Knight's gruff, raspy vocal cords, Bane's attempt at speech was almost universally hated. And it's not very hard to hear why. Because the guy kinda sounds like Sean Connery trapped in a pillow factory. He sounds like Pops from Regular Show using Batfleck's voice modulator. He sounds like an American attempting a British accent while speaking into their hands.
You see? Not too dissimilar.
And it's not just the ridiculous voice itself. It's also the way he enunciates certain words when doing this voice.
You betrayed us.
All I need now is one more ordinary board member. This is the instrument of your liberation.
Up to you as the shining example of justice. And do you accept this man's resignation? And do you accept the resignation of all of these liars? I am the League of Shadows. I'm here to fulfill Ra's al Ghul's destiny.
How is this supposed to be played for anything but laughs? You mean to tell me that this is supposed to be monstrous and menacing? Yeah, I don't know, tough sell. Now, to Tom Hardy's credit, he does at least disguise his voice fairly well. I don't really hear a trace of his original accent or even a hint of how he actually sounds. So on that front, he succeeds, but really, at what cost? I think this choice really hurt the end product. There is a reason this portion of these films is so heavily parodied, with even official DC projects making mention and mockery of it.
Oh, I don't think do I sound like... You never hear your own voice, I guess.
It's a pretty big problem when the villain of your movie feels more like the spoof of a villain in a movie. Now granted, I'm willing to say that this sound does make this Bane distinct and different and unmistakable. But it also makes him sound unmistakably bad. His voice is really trying on the ears. And if a guy who sounds like me is saying that, you know it's a problem. I think in a lot of ways the voice kinda ruined the character. Because everything they did right by Bane was overshadowed by this one thing they did wrong. This one really big thing they did wrong. Because Bane's voice is his defining trait here. And yeah, it's definitely not what I'd expect in a Bane performance vocally. But then again, it's also not what I'd expect in a Bane performance aesthetically either. This Bane look is definitely very different from the character that I'm used to. But maybe that's kind of for the better. I'm someone who thinks that if you're gonna adapt a story, you need to follow the spirit of the source. You should portray the characters as the next-in-line spiritual successors to the originals. You should follow the blueprint of the character, but beyond that, expand it and do whatever you want with it, decorate it any way you'd like. And in that respect, I think with the Bane character, this movie did that. I'm not really losing any sleep over Luchador Bane not making an appearance here. As a matter of fact, I think I have more hours of sleep because of it. As much as I like his signature look, it definitely wouldn't work in the atmosphere these movies cultivated. I don't think there would ever really be a way to make that mask work in this universe. So their solution to that deserves some credit. This Bane mask works well within this world. It's not too outside the abnormal normal that was already established. And it's given a valid backstory as to why he would wear it. The mask had a very different but defining look. Hell, it actually comes into play later on when Batman learns that the mask could also be a weakness. And don't even get me started with those coats, alright? This is a Bane with some sense of fashion here. Now, for all the negative feedback and backlash this gets, I don't think that it's an overall bad Bane performance. Because while there are definitely some things they got wrong with Bane, there are also a lot of other things they got right. They really established and emphasized Bane's power and prowess. The character comes off as very naturally menacing and fear-inducing. And the character brings a sense of power and danger that's present outside of his strength. He serves a purpose, he carries himself with a sense of authority. He's a leader who leads by both love and fear. Yeah, some of his cohorts have full faith in this man-beast, believing that they're pawns in some grand scheme with a much bigger purpose, willing to sacrifice their lives for a cause that they don't fully understand. But there's also a decent amount of those he works with that only follow his orders because they're afraid of what will become of them if they don't. Afraid of being unwilling sacrifices to Bane's cause. Often Bane's intelligence is forgotten or just downright downplayed, all in favor of making him some destructive brute. An unstoppable force of nature, a muscle-headed monster. But The Dark Knight Rises mostly got it right. Bane is as intelligent as he is intimidating. He's smart and scary. And sometimes he's so smart that it's scary. He's a terrorist with an extra emphasis put on terror. This Bane isn't just a physical threat to Batman, he's a psychological threat to society. Bane manages to do the one thing the Joker failed to do in the last movie, and turns Gotham City in upon itself. Degrading the city's civilians, turning them rogue. He uses severe scare tactics in order to get Gotham to do his bidding. Bane is a fixture of the story all throughout. We see his impact and influence even when he's not present. The fear in those working for and with him. We see the way the city officials and officers react to his warnings. We watch higher-ups immediately giving in to his demands with little give-back. Bane is not just seen, he is felt. Now, while there's a lot of attention put on his intellect, that doesn't mean his muscle just ceases to exist. His ungodly strength is still highlighted and emphasized within the movie. I mean, Bane is just out here taking lives, snapping necks, and iconically, breaking backs, just as he's done before in the comics. This may not look like the Bane that I know, but he sure as hell acts like the Bane that I know. Voice notwithstanding. This is the essence of Bane with a fresh coat of paint. And a fresh coat. His speech pattern doesn't exactly line up with the character from the comics, but again, that's okay. Especially given what this movie was going for. Regardless, because this film incorporates both sides of the character, much like his comic book counterpart, this Bane breaks Batman physically, mentally, and spiritually. The fact that this villain can impact both the lives of Batman and Bruce Wayne immensely makes him one of the greatest foes he's ever stood against. And I think this movie does a good job of making you feel like Batman has finally met his match. Now more than ever, I feel that Batman is in danger. There's a certain unnerving unpredictability that comes with the fight scenes between Bane and Batman. Because while it feels like Bane is in his prime, it is very certain that Batman isn't. And of course, given the fact that we're watching a Batman movie and not a Bane movie, we probably go into this knowing that Batman will inevitably win. We also don't know what winning would cost him. Because any way you look at this, there's no way Batman can get out of the fight as the same man who entered that fight. I actually think this Bane is a greater threat than Heath Ledger's Joker, than Aaron Eckhart's Two-Face, than Cillian Murphy's Scarecrow.
Yes, it is to be pronounced Killian, not Cillian.
And Liam Neeson's Ra's al Ghul. Batman seems outsmarted, outmatched, and generally outdone in every way. There's a bunch of minor things that are done with the character too that I'm a very big fan of. I don't know if it's unnoticed or understated, but I really appreciate the fact that Bane walks around with the same strut that his mentor did. For some reason I think that's lost on a lot of people, because for one reason or another, it's a mannerism that didn't get a whole lot of attention when Liam Neeson did it, but Tom Hardy's swagger's much more memorable and memeable, so. Despite the voice, I think there was a lot good done with the character. Unfortunately, all the goodwill that they drummed up kind of becomes a moot point with the end reveal, when it's ultimately shown that the big, bad, brilliant Bane isn't the mastermind that he's initially shown to be. He's nothing more than an impossibly strong, surprisingly articulate pawn in the grand scheme of Talia al Ghul. In a lot of ways, this reveal is narratively appeasing. This plays into her father's false-face ruses, staying hidden from your enemy while devising a fictional enemy in your place in order to keep your opponent distracted. Talia is literally following in her father's footsteps. I think that's a solid story element. In a lot of ways, this makes everything feel full circle. However, it's the way this aspect affects the Bane character that I'm not a fan of. Because really, this makes Bane look like an absolute chump. And the fact that almost directly after this reveal, the character is carelessly killed off with very little attention put on the moment, kinda just solidifies that. He's shot by a returning Catwoman, and that's it. No grand finale, no big send-off, no final scene. Just bang. Now let's move on. Bane, who was the bad that this whole movie focused on, the villain that this movie put all its time and efforts into showcasing, is suddenly an afterthought. You would think with all the screen time devoted to establishing him that he'd play more of a role in the climax, but no. It's clear by the end of this that Bane, despite all the work that was done with the character, was only made to serve as a red herring. A mostly inconsequential plot point that could have really been filled in by anybody, just to distract the viewers from the real threat who is going incognito. This turns Bane into just another mindless drone following orders, calling a lot of his past actions into question. All of the destruction he caused, all the lives that he's negatively affected, all the strategic schemes, none of that was truly his doing. He deserves very little, if not none of the credit. This robs Bane of all of the development he's gotten up until this point. And unfortunately, Bane himself is nothing more than a mask for Talia. And for me, that is the problem with Bane. So if you like this video and would like to see a video on this movie's Robin, let me know in the comment section below by leaving a comment saying,
I am the League of Shadows.
With all that being said, I was your least favorite YouTuber, Infuso, and I thank you for watching. Hope to see you in the next one.
I am vengeance. I am the night, and that was Infuso. Just remember, if you're not tuning in, then you're missing out.
So, if you like the words that came out of his mouth hole, and you too would like to become a V-generate, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching, nerds!
And if you're not joining the fun, you're in for one bad day. And you know what they say about having one bad day?
Catch him next time. Same bat time. Same bat channel.